In this video, we learn how to dissect the cube. And in the lecture, you can see that you can take this front line and you could use a measuring tool and you could break it up into nice equal segments. So you could do that. But what we're going to do today is we're going to practice, I think it's really an art of dissecting the cube. And we're going to dissect the cube to break it up into these nice increments that we can use to then sketch within the cube. So again, next week we're going to take the cube, for example, and we're going to use the cube and we're going to draw a chair. So let's just talk about dissecting the cube. So first, you're going to start with by drawing a horizontal line across the page. You're going to place a vanishing point on the left on the horizon line and on the right of the horizon line. Then you're going to place a long line, and it doesn't have to be equal distance below, above and below, but you're going to place a line right on that horizon line. So I could have just as well placed it down here. You've already done this in the last exercise, or up here, but I'm just going to go ahead and place it right around the horizon line, like it's a building that I'm looking at, or a 10-foot cube that I'm looking at. So go ahead and draw your vertical line like you've done before. Like you've done in the last exercise where you put 2-point perspectives of cubes in a room. You're going to go to the left and right vanishing points to create the top and bottom edges of your cube. And you can go all the way back to your cube. You can see I have some construction lines under. And then draw in your nice vertical lines that make your cube look cube-like. There you go. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use an X from the 4 corners. I could do this on both sides. I'm going to use an X, and I'm going to place an X. So that X does not necessarily, it can, if you put an equal line above and below the horizon line, then your X is going to hit right at the horizon line. I didn't do that because I wanted to really make clear that it doesn't matter where that line sits on the horizon line. When you cut a shape in half, you find its center. So go ahead and go from the 4 corners, and you're going to find the center X. I'm just putting a dot there so that you can see it in my video. And you're going to go through the X to, in this case, the right vanishing point. So now, by cutting it in half with an X and then going through that with its vanishing point, you're finding you've just cut the block in 2 pieces. In perspective, since vertical lines are vertical, go ahead and place a vertical line right through that X. And now you have 4 equal quadrants. 4 equal quadrants. Let's further divide this up into 8 equal quadrants. So just so you can see, I could name this block any dimension. So I'm going to say that this is a 10-foot by 10-foot cube. I'm just saying it is. So that means I've just broken my cube up into a 5-foot piece, a 5-foot piece, a 5-foot piece, a 5-foot piece. If I say my block is 3 feet, then I just broke it up into 18 inches or a foot and a half, a foot and a half, and a foot and a half, and a foot and a half. It's just a great way to go ahead and break things up in equal pieces. So in your 4 quadrants, now break it up further. So we have 4 equal quadrants. So that means if you place an X in those quadrants, you can break these up further. This is just, you're going to use this all the time in drawing. Great. So I can do the same from the center points of my X's. I can go to the vanishing point. And through my X's now, if I bring a vertical line up, take a look. I created a box. And look how nicely I've broken up my box into these quadrants. It really does look like a Rubik's Cube now, doesn't it? So if I probably measured these, I probably did a pretty good job, and these are all equally spaced. So I have, if this is a 8-foot high block, 2, 4, 6, 8. 2, 4, 6, 8. And they all go in this beautiful perspective to the vanishing point. If you want to repeat this exercise for practice, you can do the same exercise on the left side of your cube. But I'm just going to go back here. And give myself a little start. The next thing we're going to learn is we're going to learn how to place the exact same size cube right next to itself, going back in perspective. So if this is a 3-foot cube, I want to place another 3-foot cube going back in perspective. So let me just draw this a little more pronounced so that you can see it. So I want it to stay on that same line. I want it to stay and follow, so I want it to be stacked right next to, or placed right next to here. So I'm just going to eyeball it, and I'm going to say it's going to look like it's going to be right about here, because that looks like I'm a cube. So what you're going to do is from the top left corner, through this line, through the center line, from the top through the center line, you're going to draw an angle. And then you're going to draw up. From the top, through that center angle, they're looking less cube-like because they're moving back in perspective. But they're nice and equal. You can also take the X and create another cube on top of it. I'm eyeballing it first, see what looks right. So from the left and right corner, remember, if you put an X through anything, you create its center. So now, in a sense, we're going to create an X through this big box. Now, I just did that to kind of gauge where the top of my box would be. And to be quite honest with you, I had a little brain moment where I couldn't remember how to do it, but now I can quickly see, okay, I'm placing an X. So you're going to go from the left corner through the center. See, I got pretty close, but not exact. From the right corner through the center of your cube, you're going to go up. And where it hits those nice vertical lines, you've created your cube. My lines are a little askew, apparently. Right? You place an X through anything and you find its center. So now we're placing an X through this nice big box and you found its center. So that's the end of this lesson. You can place an X through here, find it's to the vanishing point, and stack again on top of it, or you can simply, since you've done it once already, you can take all these nice vertical lines up. Have cubes going down. That's the end of this exercise. If you want to, you can go ahead and practice putting the small roof on, if you would like, on a little cube. You can do that somewhere else on your drawing. So what I just did is I'm drawing my cube. I don't have the instructions next to me, so I'm just assuming this is how you do it. Okay, so basically I drew a cube, the X on the front, the X on the back, a vertical line through both of those. Help if my line was a bit more vertical. Whoa, not even close. And then just decide where you want the top of your gable, and then go down to the corners. Take it across to make the top of your gable to the vertical line in the back, and then where that point meets. So for those of you who are having trouble seeing shapes, here's my little gable. So basically what I did is I created a cube. I cut the cube in half with an X. I drew a vertical line straight up, decided what I wanted that peak to be, then brought the triangle down to each corner. To create that top plane, I went to the left vanishing point. And in the back, I did the same thing. I crossed my X, brought the vertical line up, and where that line meet, I knew that everything was nice and plumb, and then I just brought that corner down to the front. That's the end of this lesson. The next lesson we'll take the cube and draw some ellipses inside.